So, friend of the show and fellow DSG member caught you, Nicholas, getting a haircut on your first day of school, and you just looked adorable.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate it. Unbelievable. Never
That
seen.
was tremendous. But with that said, folks, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, the DSG and Geeks Worldwide Radio proudly present to you the greatest podcasting team in the world. He's the Fry Guy, Nick Friar. I'm the Backcracker, Dr. Joe. And together we are the Woodward and Bernstein of the DSG, baby. Oh, we're also the TLDR Comic Book Club. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing just splendid. One of your all-time intros, man. It gets better and better every time. But yes, Joe is right. We are Woodward and Bernsteining again. Just when we thought that November is going to be a month filled of us doing mainline episodes before the holiday, like before we get to the Christmas time and doing a bunch of specials. Just you never know, Joe.
Same thing with
knocking.
December. I had
Yep.
December all mapped out too, and now it's all being
Yep.
thrown up in the air. But
People come knocking, man. We can't say no to some of these things. It's too important.
well, we can't say no. I mean, people want to they want to come on the program, Nicholas.
Yep.
And we have for the people very excited about this for the second time. We have AWA Axel Alonso. And former editor-in-chief at Marvel, and we had him on to discuss the Resistance universe. They're doing something that is absolutely brilliant with the Resistance universe, the origin, and it's a graphic novel, and it contains the entire first volume of the Resistance plus the first issues of the Resistance Uprising, the one shot, the Resistance Reborn, Moths, Knighted. I think the Joneses #1 is in there. And so
erratic
talked about #1, right? So it's a great introduction into this universe, and so we had a great time chatting with Axel about that, and we can't wait for everyone to hear it, and then hopefully go out and buy it, which I believe it drops on December 7th, right?
December 7th, yes. So a lot of interesting stuff coming out on December 7th, and that's definitely something you should be looking into. It's like the best way to describe it, and we should have said this in there, but it's kind of like a Resistance Universe sampler. Like if you go to TGI Fridays or something like that, that's exactly what this is. And the only way you can hear that conversation is if you're subscribed to one of our audio channels, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Geeks Worldwide Radio, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast, we are there, and that is the only place you can hear any of our Friar side chats. And we have a ton of them, and we talk to some of the biggest names in the business. I mean, Axel Alonso being one of them, like you said, former EIC of Marvel, the current CCO over at AWA, and we did talk almost solely about the Resistance universe, but we did get to touch on a little bit of the other stuff that we've been talking about with AWA creators, whether it's from John Lees, Krista Faust, a little bit of Benjamin Percy mixed in there too. So a lot of great conversations you guys can go back and listen to. Got some more from him on those projects as well, and about some stuff that's coming up. We may have to have him on again soon because he was, it's kind of his order. So we kind of got to listen to Axel when he's telling us to do shit.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, he's programmed a large chunk of our show in the past.
Yes.
And he's programming a large chunk of the future. One thing I'm very excited, he whenever he drops the name Garth Ennis,
yes,
the ears go up, the antenna go up. And so there's something coming up, which he didn't really get to. Well, you got to listen. You got to listen.
Yep.
You got to listen.
He gave us some stuff that I don't think was supposed to come out yet, but I think Axel can say it whenever he wants to because he's the boss over there. He's calling all the shots, so it doesn't really matter if he says it. It's like, okay, it's out now. Yeah. That's what I decided to do. So got some great stuff from him. Very excited to re-listen to that myself, but really happy that everybody else is going to get a chance to listen to Axel again on the show, and we'll be talking to him again at some point down the line. But we got other stuff to get to. You guys will be able to listen to that. That drops on midnight on Wednesday. If you're listening to us in audio form, it's already available. Go listen to that before you listen to us talk about what's new in comics this week. But Joe, before we get to what's new, we got to catch up a little bit. What have you been trying to get to since we last spoke?
So I got a lot of reading done today. Excuse me for my raspy voice. I got another Jordan flu game I'm playing.
Unbelievable.
I know. Well, kids and school, it's a cesspool. Kids are disgusting.
Sticky fingers.
So Gun Honey, Blood for Blood, issue #3.
Yeah.
So Newbury Comics doesn't always get the Gun
Oh,
Honey
geez, that's right.
books in the Mylar bag. Usually they always have Gun Honey and they're always provocative covers. But I'm like, it's in a Mylar bag. I'm gonna grab this one. I've had to hide this one around my house at various times because I don't want anyone to see me reading it because I sent you a picture of it, man. The shag carpeting
Yeah.
that is featured on this cover was outrageous.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I get a text from Joe. Thankfully, I was not in the office that day, but good Lord. Like, can I get an
Holy smokes.
SFW text next time before you send that? Jeez, dude. I was not ready for that.
Yeah, but this just could I love this volume more than I love the first volume. I really do. It's fantastic. And this issue was fantastic. I caught up on Cullen Bunn's friend of the show, Shock Shop issue 3. Again, continues to be fantastic. And then I caught up on a bunch of books that have issues coming out this week that I fell an issue behind on. So Wind Thrown in the Sky, issue 3, West of Sundown, issue 5. That has been a very surprising series for me because I just sort of picked it up on a whim. Shang-Chi issue 4, and then Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino's the Bone Orchard Mythos 10,000 Black Feathers issue 2.
Ooh.
Oh man, this is a strong consideration.
Really?
It's up there for book of the year.
It is qualifying by our standards because October, I think, is our cutoff, if I'm not mistaken, or September. I can't remember, but it's
well, it would qualify for this year because it's only had 3 issues out so far.
Yeah, so you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Yeah, but there's some someone making late surges. As for me, Joe, I actually did catch up on Shock Shop issues 2 and 3 as well.
Excellent, right?
And we had for those who missed it, we had Cullen Bunn on the show recently to talk about this book from Dark Horse Comics. And I'll tell you what, Something in the Woods in the Dark was originally my favorite of the 2 books that are in this series. But I think the one with the dad and the kids, I'm drawing a blank on the name right now. Let's see if I can pull that up really quickly. But I think I'm leaning Familiars. I think I like Familiars more through the 3 issues, and the fourth one is going to be the final issue for both, if I'm not mistaken. But time and again, too, the woman that's running the comic shop there, I want to know more about her story. She's awesome. She's great.
Yeah.
But Ghost Rider issue 8 from friend of the show, Benjamin Percy. Canary issue 3 from friend of the show, Scott Snyder. I cannot wait to tell you more about this series, Joe. It's freaking kick-ass. Another series that I've been waiting on. And I took this one, I think, with my number 2 overall pick when we did our Scott Snyder our Scott-tober draft a little while back, or feels like a year and a half back or something. Book of Evil issue 1. Now, this has been out for a little bit. I did drag my feet a little bit on this one because I just thought, it's getting released, and then if I don't see anything from Scott necessarily, then I assume that maybe there's a delay and League of Comic Geeks is off. But I finally got a chance to read this after last show, Joe, and wow, like this is very different than anything you're going to see in comics. It's very much prose. There's a lot of artwork in it, but the description throughout all of it and the imagery, man, the moments where you get a lot more of an image, it's like, whoa, it's really heavy, really intense. And I am very excited to read this going forward. I can't wait to talk to you about it more when this wraps up. Of course, it's still a long way to go, but this first issue was really, really promising. I still think Canary probably had the best first issue of the 3 that I've read so far that I'm going to be talking about on here. I still have to read Dudley Datsun, but Book of Evil, I think, is number 2 for me on the list right so far for opening issue.
Was this Jock?
This
Book
Jock
of Evil?
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's
gimme.
It's really
give me that.
It's very different.
Give me that.
It's very different. But that is it for catching up. Let's get to what's new. Take us through Marvel, Joe. What's coming out from them this week?
All right, I gotta warm up the vocal cords for this one. Holy smokes. So we have Immortal X-Men issue 8, She-Hulk issue 8, Iron Man number 25, Gambit number 5, your favorite, Star Wars Dr. Aphra number 26, Gold Goblin. Now, I will say this. There's a bunch of number 1s this week that I'm very interested in. This being one of them. Gold Goblin number 1. We got Han Solo and Chewbacca issue number 7. We have Thunderbolts issue number 4. Another one I'm interested in here, Blade Vampire Nation, issue 1. Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings, issue 5. I caught up on issue 4. Again, this series continues to be very good. Star Wars Hidden Empire #1. Again, another issue 1 I'm interested in. And then we have Peach Pomoko's Demon Wars series, Demon Wars Shield of Justice #1. We have Namor Conquered Shores #2. Murder World Avengers #1, and Captain America and Winter Soldier Special #1. So a whole bunch of #1s there that I actually, I'm looking forward to reading. A lot of these #1s, I'm like, meh, but those ones, those are getting earmarked.
Okay.
And then we have Wakanda issue 2, and then finally Ultraman: The Mystery of Ultra 7 issue 4.
Yeah, there's a lot in Marvel we get a little bit later than everybody else, so it is harder for us to squeeze that in right before we do our episodes. But I am interested in the Blade Vampire Nation one as much as I haven't been following along with everything that's leading up to that. I do want to try and jump back in on Thunderbolts, but Gambit is the one of those titles that's just the most disappointing. I hopped off after I think it was 2 issues. It just it's like at a period where it's like Gambit's a character we need to move forward with and we need to try different things with. We don't need to revisit the friggin' past with him. So
Yeah.
I get so frustrated with that. But let's move on to DC because speaking of frustration, there is something that you want to get to. We'll save that towards the end though. After I read all these off, we got the Flash, 788, Batman, Superman, World's Finest issue 9, Catwoman 49, Batman, One Bad Day, Mr. Freeze, Dark Crisis, Young Justice issue 6. Dark Crisis, World Without a Justice League, Batman issue 1.
Get the fuck out of here with that title. It is too fucking long, Nicholas. Dark Crisis, World Without Justice League, Batman #1. No. Name it something else because you already got a fucking Dark Crisis, World Without Justice League.
Yep.
And Axel agreed with me, by the way.
Oh yeah.
These titles are too fucking long.
There's it's definitely an issue. We got another long title here. DC's War of the Undead Gods issue 4. I feel like it's a little less problematic. DC versus Vampires All Out War issue 5. Just recently talked about DC versus Vampires All Out War, written by Alex Packnadel. Really interesting sub-series in the course of this larger series, and it's a black and white, but only like red and orange are the visible colors outside of black and white and I guess gray. But some more interesting stuff over there. You can listen to the full conversation from a little while back on our audio channels. Black Adam issue 6, Stargirl: The Lost Children issue 1, Titans United Blood Pack issue 3, Harley Quinn, the Legion of Bats issue 2.
The animated series. Come on.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Do it in all caps. I thought it was like TOS and you made a typo. GCPD, The Blue Wall issue 6, Looney Tunes 269. Nice. And then, Joe, we have another book that usually you have nothing but great things to say about. I have things to say about it too, but why don't you tell us your feelings about Nightwing 98?
Man, so like again, I put the the event stuff that's separate because that's just how these things work. And so like I was like what 3 issues something like that was part of that event earlier in the year. But anyways, so Nightwing has been one of my favorite. It's been a top 3 book for me this year, right? And the last issue, right, 97, the way that ended, right? And you see Rick Grayson,
Yep.
right? And you go, what the fuck? And then so like Tom Taylor just nailed it every step of the way. And then we get this issue, and it was a letdown for me because I had my expectations of where he's going to take this following the last issue versus what we got. I felt like the tone was a 180 from what we've had in this entire series.
Sure.
This is Nightwing and Night Might. So this was a cutesy issue that continued to tell the story, and we had a guest artist on this one, Danielle Di Niculo, who I love. Right, we 7 Secrets. I love his art style, and it just between the tone of Night Might and the art, it was a we've had many different artists on this book, so I've kind of gotten used to that. A lot of that, it's been going on with DC in general, but the tone of this issue just felt very out of place
Mm.
for me. And I didn't like you give us Rick Grayson and then the explanation for it just it was the rarest of misses.
Mm. Yeah,
And it bummed me out a little bit.
so did you spoil things just now? Like,
Book came out today.
I know. Well, okay. I don't know. It felt like it was
We've had
pretty.
we've had this conversation with Scott Snyder himself. He says once the book is out, it's not spoiler anymore.
Okay. I just always view it as like Wednesdays, but it whatever. For me, this very much felt like this is a book for the kids. Like, absolutely, like, and
100%.
yeah, and it was not an ideal sidestep, especially when we had like such a what the fuck just happened last end of the last issue. It's like, that's what it is. Like, okay, like it was fine for me. Tom Taylor never misses it. I mean, Daniel cool. I still liked his art. I still thought it worked fine and all this. Like, but I just could have done without it, but it's fine. Whatever.
It was
Fine.
just tonally, it was just a departure from what the series has been under
Yeah.
Tom Taylor. Like I said, the art thing, it just like it felt very, like you said, for the kids, right?
Mhm.
And I've seen a lot of praise for this issue. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's terrible because nothing about it is terrible. My
No.
disappointment with it is that tone wise and story wise, it just felt like a misstep. I
Yeah.
felt like there was something bigger, greater going on, and then the way that the path they took. Because I'm more than convinced that with issue 99 and then issue 100, it's right.
Sure.
We're right back on course here. But this
Yeah.
one was a little.
And I think, and I mean, like, look, people can justify any reasons that they're upset about a book or whatever, but I think that when you're talking about like it's a tonal thing and this is what you've been doing the whole time, and then you take a hard left turn, to me, I think that's very much a fair like criticism when you're talking about any type of story that you're dealing with, which just doesn't fit everything else that you're doing. Like that's an odd bit of execution. To me, what like again, like I'm with you. Like it's just like, well, I think it's like fine in the end. Like this issue, like most of them are like nines, comfortably over it, like maybe an 8.5. But this is more like a 7. Like this is like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
it's not bad, but it's just like, why did we go this direction? And also, more importantly for me, especially somebody who read the Rick Grayson stuff and had to deal with all that crap, it's like, it's like kind of a funny thing, but at the same time, you brought this in. I thought there was going to be some real crazy shit going on here.
Yeah.
Like Dick's got something going on in his
that's
head.
the tone of the book. That's
Yeah.
that would have fit the tone. And then what we got was like we went from HBO to Saturday morning cartoons.
Yes. And like we got nothing against Saturday morning cartoons, but it's just like
No.
that's not what this is, and you could have taken this to another level of darkness. And I'm not saying this book needs to be too dark because that's not what this has been, but it's just like there's emotional, it's real, and it's taken this character in a direction that makes a lot of sense for him, and where other series don't necessarily get the chance to go and like kind of take that. That's the sidestep you take, was kind of just like you said, it was a little bit out of place. So in the end, it's fine, but it could have been a lot better. Not that we're, again, like we're not trying to say like you need to give us this thing because this is what we want. It's just like, again, it seems like an odd decision in the end.
Yeah. And I'm more than I know that this is it's not like with issue 98 of Nightwing we've got a completely different writer and a completely different team, and this is the direction they're going in.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to say, okay, I think I'm out. It's just one issue. They tried something like they did this before with the sequential art from Redondo, right?
Yeah.
That issue was very different from everything else that they have been doing, but it still fit the tone.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
the
so
stories,
cool.
right?
So cool.
And so this was just okay. They took a shot. It didn't land for me. Didn't necessarily land for you. Again, doesn't mean that it was terrible or that it sucks or anything like that. It's just I was expecting something else and versus what we got, and that was that.
Because I mean, the series was like, we're talking about like it was in friggin' 6th gear with everything that's going on, like that's important to Nightwing, and then you throw the wrench of Rick Grayson into things, and it's like, wait, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
This is just going completely
My
bananas.
my jaw hit the floor when I saw that, right?
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So now, like to have that, it's just like, why? Like that's like you said. I think you put it perfectly when you said like it's a tonal shift that's just a little bit like what? How did we get here? But 98, 99. Well, I'm sure we'll be checking back in and have a lot of positive things to say. But that's for another day, another discussion. What do we got from Image coming out this week?
We got some bangers, some real bangers from Image this week. So we have
Yep,
Gunslinger Spawn issue 14, uh,
allegedly.
allegedly. Junkyard Joe number 2. I Hate Fairyland Volume 2, Issue 1. This is a Scotty Young book.
Yep.
I this is making me want to go. I've never read the first volume of I Hate Fairyland, so I'm gonna go check that out at some point.
Read it, and if you like it, because I want to read it too, but if you like it, like talk about it on the show, like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
let me
yeah.
know. Like this is Scotty
Perfect.
Young. I like Scotty Young a lot. Like his art is really cool. His stuff they did with Rocket Raccoon years back was really cool. I want to hear I want you to check this out first though.
You should follow. I should have had his Instagram handle at the ready, but follow him on Instagram because he does a lot of like daily sketches, and I
Hmm.
love when artists do that
Yeah.
stuff and just sort of see their process. But anyways, we have Prodigy, the Icarus Society issue 5, Voyages issue 1, which I intend on giving a look at. The Deadliest Bouquet issue 4. I didn't underline to talk about it because I want to talk about it on the show, so I don't
Right.
want to dive into it too much. But excellent. And then my pet project, the Shirtless Bear Fighter 2, issue 4.
Hmm.
And then we each have a couple of books that we want to discuss from Image this week. I'll let you go first, Nicholas.
Yeah, so I mean, there's two that I did want to dig into a little bit more. I think I want to start with well, they're both from friends of the show. Let's start with Above Snakes issue 5 because this is the final issue. This is it. Like you get to it and it is the end. Could Sean and Hayden revisit this property at some point down the line? Sure. Could they revisit it with with Dirt? Sure. Could they revisit it with other characters that we kind of got to know a little bit, just like this world in general? Yes. Do they have to? They don't. And I'd like to see them do it. I'd rather not see them do it with Dirt. I think like what they did here was like a good job.
Dirt's story, yeah, had
Yep.
a very, very satisfying conclusion.
Yes, it
Yeah,
did. And not only was his part like to me, what stands out so much is not his conclusion, but the effect that it has on so many others in the
yeah,
course of it all. It like I that's where I'm like, okay, I kind of want to see what happens with some of those other people, but the way even if they never go back to it, it's like that's something that's always going to sit with me. Like Dirt did his thing and his ending and whatnot, and then the way it affects everybody else is like, wow, like you
yeah.
don't like you stuff kind of like that can pop in your head a little bit sometimes, but seeing it manifested in like the visual way that it was at the end of this series to me is what's going to stick with me. Like aside from Dirt, the character, and some of the awesome lettering from Hassan Otsmani allowed to because he does other stuff, but like this series, like his like lettering was like really jumped out.
This was one of the rare times where I'm looking at the lettering and I'm
Yeah,
going, it's perfect. It was
yeah,
it was outstanding because a
yep.
lot of times, I think to me, honestly, a good letterer, uh, it flows. You're not thinking about it,
Just
right?
doesn't get in
It's
the way.
exactly. It's like offensive linemen, right? If they're doing
Yeah,
their job, right, you're not hearing their names a lot, right? Because they're
right.
not getting called for penalties and all that shit. So like with letterer, like I only really notice the lettering if it's off-putting,
Hmm.
right? But with this, I was looking at go, oh man, this is fantastic because he just would do different things with the colors of the letters and different things with the bubbles. It was absolutely fantastic. And this was probably the most emotional issue of
Yeah.
Above Snakes, which
Well, it's up
yeah,
there. The one with the I forget the bigger girl's name, but like what was kind of going on with her was pretty emotional too. But no, you're probably right. It's this one's like definitely like the for me, it's definitely gonna sit with me the most. It was a very good ending.
yeah, because it was visceral on a couple of different levels with Sherman's art and then with Sean's writing, and I think the way that it wrapped up you know, we got some tidbits, we got some more information that really just kind of brought it all together. And the way that it ended for Dirt, I thought again, it was perfect. And what I love too about Sean's books is that when he finishes something, he always has a page where, like, we talked about this with Bliss, and that was a very personal and a very emotional letter he wrote at the end of
Mm,
Bliss. With this, it was pretty humorous, but like you alluded to, like the story of Dirt and Spec, like that was concluded. But then there's this like back and forth. It's a page of just dialogue of Dirt and Spec, and it kind of leaves things open a little bit,
mhm,
right? Where like they could revisit so like that dynamic between those two characters, I thought was hilarious and great, but
mhm.
it got really poignant there at the end. Like their
Yeah.
relationship had a real drastic turn there,
Yeah.
that paid off really well. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
if Sean and Hayden decide to revisit Dirt, I'm gonna give it a look. I'd rather them not, and but I'm fine. Like them revisiting this world in general, I'm very much open to. I just rather see a different character that we got to know in the course, like not even a ton, just a little bit in the course of Dirt's travels, because there are a few that we could go and check out and move their story forward. So,
Well, the brilliant thing that they did was they created the world. So
yep.
now, like at this bar, so it could just be it could be any person now. And
Mhm,
if you've read the first arc of Above Stakes, it would just take a quick introduction of the on
mhm,
the inside jacket of the book to just say boom, and
yep.
then you can just take off with it.
100%. Now, I do want to talk about Nita Hawes in a second, but why don't you tell me about the third issue of was it Lemire and Muti's series that you've been reading?
Yeah, so this is the 10,000 Black Feathers. And so when Lemire and not Muti, it's Andrea Sorrentino,
Tarantino, my bad.
when those two work together, it's electric. And we talk about art all the time, right? And styles of artists. And with Sorrentino's art, I understand it's not for everyone. Um, but there's something about when it comes to horror, like Francesco Francavilla as well, like their tones, their colors, their lines, the way they draw gives off these horror vibes. And what Sorrentino does really well is he's very abstract. Like Gideon Falls got very abstract. There was another Lemire and Sorrentino book that took place with the dog in space that it went completely over my head.
Primordial?
Primordial, yes, thank you.
Yeah, that was the
And
monkey.
that was the monkey. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry. And the dog. And so anyways,
Oh,
that was very abstract. But what I love about Sorrentino, his art sometimes is he'll take like these like there'll be the standard panels, but it's 10,000 black feathers. So you're seeing images of feathers, and sometimes he'll have an outline of a feather like going through a couple different panels, and inside that feather is something going on related to the story. But what I love about this book is the way that it's told, because with what we're getting into now is some fantasy stuff, some horror stuff, but also some mystery stuff. And this third issue really kicked it up a notch. And I thought Sorrentino's art in this particular issue was there is an image at the end of this issue um, that is reminiscent of a certain panel from Hit Me that I always reference.
oh,
That freaks me out. This
oh, yeah. Okay, yep.
this takes it to a whole new level, man.
Holy.
And I kind of looked at, went, oh, thank God it's 10 a.m. in the morning. That I'm looking at this panel, because hopefully by the time I go to bed I'll forget it. Because it was that visually arresting.
Mm,
But this is 100% a TLDR worthy book. Um,
which
Lemire's character writing, his again, like him and Lewis do this better than anybody. The emotional, tapping into that emotional connection to their characters and understanding that, and portraying it onto the page when you see it and when you read it, just hits you and you feel it. It's also very relatable, even though we're dealing with things that are maybe supernatural, or horrific or whatever it might be. So I can't wait to talk about this book. I can't wait for you to read this book. 'Cause I don't know if you've read Gideon Falls, and I don't know if you've really read much of Lemire's indie stuff. I know you've read,
Read
Moon
some of it,
Knight.
but you have a ton of like you've talked about Lemire, I think, more than any writer on the
Yeah.
show. So I like but there's May's book as well. So there's a
Oh,
few that
May's
are on
book.
my list.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
if we do a trade soon, I mean, I feel like I have to do a Lemire one. We're supposed to our next like mainline issue is a trade. So
Yeah, which might not take place until next year.
yeah, this is
Uh,
very true. Yes. We
so
are the last Ronin of podcasts.
we've that is what we've become. We've become Eastman and Laird. But 10,000 Black Feathers, part of the Bone Orchard mythos there by Lemire and Sorrentino. Absolutely excellent.
Thought you were going in a different direction there. I was gonna say, geez, Joe. But anyways, let's see. We got the last book from Image Comics that we did want to talk about. Nita Hawes' Nightmare Blog, issue 10 is out this week, and we get a lot of Anansi at the center of everything here.
Yes.
But the big thing is we get an introduction of a character who like makes sense that this character's getting thrown in the mix. But I'll tell you what, like it's quite the entrance, and to me too, like we're seeing Simon Kudransky really like take over things in the court, like with this series, and I love his art style. I think it fits really well, where it's like it's similar to what Jason Sean Alexander is doing over in Philadelphia, but it is still like there is still like a difference as well. Maybe it's the colors that are a little bit more similar, and the penciling is where the difference is here. But continues to be an awesome series. I really enjoyed this second arc too, and we're seeing Nita kind of with her development. We're seeing like there's a greater importance to her while we're dealing with this new villain in the mix that I think like I know Rodney told us a while back when we talked about Nita Hawes with him that he doesn't want to like he wants to treat each arc like its own kind of story where like yes you it'll reference back to the previous one, but we're moving on to like different cases and everything. I think this main villain that we have here, she could be involved for a while, especially if you start really crossing over into the Philadelphia stuff. Because I would think that you're gonna with the rise of Nita Hawes and her importance and her I guess abilities that she seems to possess.
Yeah. Well, what's wild is that we're so used used to in Philadelphia of getting introduced to historical characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Nita Hawes is a departure from that, except for this issue,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Because we get a Jim Dandy of an introduction
Yeah.
of a character
The
in this
design
issue.
man too is great.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's what I love. I mean, what I love about Nita Hawes that's different from Philadelphia is that I love that mystery aspect of things, the supernatural mystery they're trying to solve, right? And learning more about Nita and everything and those characters, and it's great. And we've had some mentions of Philadelphia. This issue might sort of mention the most of
Mm.
what's going on over in Philadelphia. So I mean, tone wise, they're both on the same level.
Yeah.
But it just continues to be such a fantastic book.
Yeah. I love it, and I said before that it was like it moved past Philadelphia in my power rankings, but that last arc, I mean, and Lauren's still reading Philadelphia, like she is all caught up like us, but she's definitely trade waiting and everything, and mooching off me. But what the story of my life, I guess. But she like the last arc of Philadelphia was so next level from
Yeah.
everything else that's gone on in this universe that like to me right now Philadelphia is number one, and then this is number two. But I mean that's not like you're talking about like dealing with
It's
like
1 and 1A, to be
yeah,
honest with you.
It's like Pedro and like Kurt Schilling before he went off the rails. It's kind of what we're dealing with here. But we don't want to get too much.
Maybe go Pedro and Randy Johnson there.
Well, I'm talking about teammates, because that's what these two are.
Yeah.
Well, then you go to Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling. So again,
yeah, I want to keep Kurt Schilling off his fucking podcast as much.
Oh, okay, that's fair. We're not a sports show, so it does make sense. All right, so you do have a Boom book that we want to dig into. Let me go through the other ones though before we do that. So we got Dark Horse Cyberpunk 2077. You Have My Word issue 4. That is a long ass title. Young Hellboy Assault on Castle Death issue 3. Masquerade issue 3. Shaolin Cowboy Cruelty Kin issue 7. Frankenstein New World issue 3. I didn't even know this was a thing. Overwatch New Blood issue 5. Resident Alien The Book of Love issue 1. From IDW, True Cult issue 4, Star Trek Resurgence issue 1, Crashing issue 3, Sonic the Hedgehog, Scrapnik Island issue 2. Can you take the next couple? Holy crap.
So from Dynamite, we have Immortal Red Sonja issue 8, and then the Ninjets issue 3. From Vault, we have West of Sundown issue 6, which again continues to be a stellar series. From friend of the show, Cullen Bunn, we have Door by Door, Night by Night issue 1. Which one of these? I know you.
I got the Aftershock one because it was a one shot.
Okay.
So you're getting the actual one. So it's not really dibs because it's a one shot. So
yeah. So, but this the way he described this book and the sort of personal ties he has to it sounds fantastic. From Skybound, we have The Walking Dead Deluxe issue 51 and Chroma issue 1. And then from Aftershock, it's a pretty big week from Aftershock, actually. They
allegedly,
right? I feel like we rattle all these things off and then maybe half of them come out. But A Calculated Man issue 4, Astronaut Down issue 5, which you've been reading.
And I will talk about it on the show. Unless barring a huge shift like that, that's one that is show worthy.
We've got Samurai Doggy issue 3, Where Starships Go to Die issue 5. There's Something Wrong with Patrick Todd issue 4. Stellar book, will be a TLDR book. Chicken Devil issue 2, which you've been reading.
Chicken Devils. So this is the second volume.
Yes.
And I finally that was so from Aftershock. I did finally read Chicken Devils issue 4 again. That was a book that kind of got lost on me in like my move and everything. So that I read the final issue of that. I need to talk about that on the show at some point. And the second volume of Bunny Mask I finally finished as well. And I fucking love that book. Oh my god, injected into my veins. That Bunny Mask is so fucking weird in all the right ways. God, have you read it yet?
I have not.
Dude, don't read it at night.
I had planned to do it for October, but we decided to scrap our plans. October, November, December have completely gone off the rails in terms of what we had planned.
Yep.
But we have Vineyard issue 3, Jimmy's Little Bastards number 2, which might be the greatest title for a comic book of all time. And then from a friend of the show, John Lees, who continues to scare the shit out of me on Twitter. Last Ride of Pillar and Pride issue 1. This was actually supposed to come out last week, and I remember him tweeting out saying it was getting pushed back. So that should be coming out this week. That's from Aftershock Comics. So if you walk into Newbury Comics or your local comic book shop, whether it be Arkham Comics and Games, if you're listening to us out from Texas, or if it's the Time Capsule, if you're down in Rhode Island, or if you're at Hub Comics over there in Somerville, those are free plugs, baby. But whatever your local comic book shop might be, if you see this book, grab it. Looks fantastic. John Lees is a tremendous writer. So
fits perfect for Aftershock too. What he does.
Yeah, so definitely give that a look. And then lastly, from Boom Studios, we have All New Firefly number 10. We have Something Is Killing the Children issue 26 finally, because I think the last book came out in July or August.
Oh my god, the cover from John Boy 2, which is Joe's background, and you can also see it on our Instagram page at TLDR_pod. Good Lord. I mean, this has got to be the best Something Is Killing the Children cover there's been,
It's up there. I mean, So 26 issues. There's been well over 100 variant covers, for this, right? So there's been some good ones, but this is right up there with them. And this, I gotta say, this is right up there with some of John Boy's best work. This cover is fucking tremendous.
Hmm.
And if they've got this at Newbury Comics, and if it's listed for 15, $20, I might buy it. It's that damn good. But picked up right where the last issue, where issue 25 left off. Excellent, excellent, excellent. But then the last book that I'll talk about today, before we, we
Hmm.
end what's new, a very, very concise what's new here,
For
starting at 40
us,
minutes,
for us, not bad.
is Wind, Thrown in the Sky, issue 4. So I talked about the first volume of Wind on the show, and I love it. It's just sort of more of an all, all, I don't want to call it an all ages book. A young adult book, but it's a fantasy book. I love fantasy stories, and I love the story of Wind. And this series, or this particular arc, it's been excellent, and it's got a very Lord of the Rings feel to it, where you've got your fellowship. They're on the run, and they just keep encountering obstacles at every twist and turn. And where this story is going, where this issue took everything, was really fantastical, really fun. Michael, Down, I can never pronounce his last name, Down Lysis. His art is perfect for this story. So, like, if you've got a son or a daughter that's 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, maybe not 10, maybe more like 12, 13, 14 years old, somewhere in that, and you want to give them a good book to read, like, this would be a great thing to start with.
Hmm.
But I enjoy it, Nick.
This
I
and
think you'd enjoy it. It's just such a great book.
so for holiday lists, if you're looking for kids, it's this and Bunny Mask.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bunny Mask. I guess I'm gonna put that in swag and stocking, actually.
Oh, I found a bunny mask, like an actual one, like the one from the character. And I texted Joe, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this for Violet for her birthday.
That shows up in our house, Nicholas. That show is officially over. I'm just telling you that right now.
Oh man. But yeah, we're speaking of gift ideas and everything. We'll be doing our holiday last minute gift ideas from for comic book readers at some point in December. Not sure
And
when
we
we're
and
doing
we
it.
gotta talk to Shine, because we got this manga issue we want to do, but that might get put off. I don't know, because I've already read the first 400 pages of my book. So you got to get cracking, Nicholas. And I know Shime's ready
Oh,
to go.
jeez. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so if we're gonna do the December thing, I just thought of two brilliant ideas that only one of them might push us back afterwards. So but that's a conversation for another day. But we do have, again, a lot of stuff in the hopper. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to one of our audio channels to make sure you get all our Friar Side chats delivered right to your listening device, nice and easy for you on Wednesdays. It's the only place you're going to find our Friar Side chat, so make sure you go subscribe there. And if you have a moment, leave a rating and review. 5 stars only on those ratings, please. Really helps out the show a ton. Tell a fellow nerd too, fellow comic book reader. Let them know about the show, because we're doing it for, as much as it's for Joe and I, because we want to talk about books with each other, it's also for you guys. So until next week, Joe, stay sexy.
You know it, baby.